Elliot Trent Thompson is unveiling 10 portraits. All 10 people had been homeless. All 10 now have permanent housing, largely because they found transition housing in tiny homes being built all over the Bay Area by Firm Foundation Community Housing of Hayward.
This is Patricia. She'll introduce herself as Patty. She was very clean cut. She was beautiful. Her eyebrows were done. Her hair was done. She came very made up. And she was expressing to me that none of her friends, none of her family knew that what she was experiencing. None of her friends, she was living in her car for a year in the parking lot. Nobody knew. She works, she has clients, she's a caregiver. She held a job the entire time. She was homeless for a year and a half, working full time. I feel like I can speak directly to Betty. Betty, it was such an honor getting to meet you.
Betty and her daughter, JoJo.
Betty and JoJo were part of the first round that were in the tiny homes at First Pres. And their story was so significant to me. They'd been living in their car. And within that first year, the church was able to come alongside Betty and provide JoJo with her first real birthday party. And that's what, that was so meaningful because that's what it's about, this community.
The communities were made possible by cities and counties and state help, spearheaded by church groups, and mostly built on church-owned land. Building the units can be done in about 6 weeks. Getting community approval takes much longer.
But what we don't see is problems or conflict. So for the 6 at First Pres, we had people that came out in droves, and we did multiple town hall meetings and heard all the complaints. And in the 3 years, 3 years that it's been there, we've had not one call for service from the police. We don't have any complaints from the neighbors.
10 portraits, 10 stories, 10 people that are no longer dwelling on the past and just surviving, but living in the present and permanently housed, thriving, and wanting to help others who are still homeless.
The subjects themselves are giving something back because the stories that we're telling in these portraits are people who experience homelessness, were given or placed in tiny homes, primarily with the mission of that being transitional housing, and then all of the people that you see in the portraits have then transitioned out of the tiny homes into apartments. And it's really an opportunity for that person to say, I'm going to allow you to use my story so that we can raise some funds to give somebody else that same story.
I think all of these stories have something in similar, which is that it takes just a little bit of safety, a little bit of security, and a little bit of support, and you see amazing leaps of success time and time again.
Nicholas Emanuel and Sarah Bartoni are 2 of the success stories. You'll learn more about them in part 2 of Homeless to Housed.
It's a big number, the amount of people who are living and dying on the street tonight in California. There are days when thinking about the 150 units we've built just doesn't feel like enough. I don't know, I sort of have to believe that 150 is enough for today. I'm going to keep working on the 200 that we have in development. As we got started, the Turner Center came out with a report. There are enough acres of unused church land to house every person who wants to be in a house. So together, I think we can do it.
In the East Bay, on part 1 of Homeless to Housed, Mark Jones reporting.